Well, hello there. Long time no see. Did you miss me? So it's been more than a couple of months since I've made a video. I could not tell you why. I was just not in the right mental state to make a video, but now I am. So here I am today trying to film a video. Hopefully it works, and hopefully I actually edit this video and upload it on YouTube. That would be fantastic. So today I'm coming at you with the books that I've read recently, and they are, I'd say, quite a lot for how much I normally read. This is like the most I've read in about a month or so since forever. I have never read this much, and I have coronavirus to thank for that. And with that in mind, please stay safe and wear a mask because nobody wants a second wave. Now, before I actually start talking about the books, I should probably let you know that I am very bad at remembering characters' names. It doesn't happen. And secondly, I am horrible at describing what a book is actually about. So the best way that I can do this is just mention like keywords that might, I don't know, might pique your interest about the book. Like these are keywords that piqued my interest. So yeah, this is like those words that I think about instantly as soon as I think about a specific book. So I think this is the way I will try to do it, because otherwise I might put you off the book if I actually try and explain what it's about. So without further ado, let's start. One of the books that I read in the past month, or should I rather say listen to, is Echo North, and I listened to it on audiobook. This book is a fairy tale in every sense of the word. It gives you a girl from a village, and it gives you a beast, and there's also a love interest and a cute family and magic and whimsy and a magical house and an evil queen, and just what more do you want? I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I have to say I did quite enjoy it a lot. It was very imaginative, to say the least. Like the amount of whimsy and fantastical stuff is just amazing, but it's not overdone. Like it's not high fantasy. I don't want to give too much away because I think this is a type of book that you should go into not knowing too much, so you can be more wowed by the experience of the whole thing. So yes, and also I wanted to mention that this is definitely a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I know this is a retelling of 2 other stories, but I cannot for the life in me remember their names. Another book that I read in the past month is Girl Serpent Thorn by Melissa Bashardust. I hope I said that correctly. Probably butchered it. I think this is another retelling, but I'm not 100% sure what story it's based on. I just know it has a lot of inspiration from Persian mythology, so that is amazing. I think it had a lot of rich mythological things going on, and the story I think was rich, and it's unlike anything I've read before, just like Echo North. Yeah, I think it was quite unique, but also it lacked this kind of spark, you know, when you read a book and it just sparks a flame within your heart, and you know it's like a 4 or a 5 out of 5 stars. Well, this one, unfortunately, it didn't have this spark for me, and for that sole reason I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I don't know, it doesn't feel like more than a 3 stars. Also, the key words for this book is girl, that is poisonous to the touch, and fantasy. Lots and lots of fantasy. I think if girl poisonous to the touch doesn't capture your attention, or the Persian mythology aspect doesn't capture your attention, I don't know what else will in this story. Another book that I read in the past month is Hold Back the Tide by Melinda Salisbury. I don't know, I forgot her name. I've read literally everything else this woman has written and loved everything. I think this is something you have to go into not knowing anything, because this is how I went into this. And besides, the description is very vague. I will just tell you that it's set in Scotland and that it's also horror, as you can probably tell with like the bloody thing on the cover going on. I got very attached very fast to the main character. So I don't know, just Melinda has a way of writing characters that just stick with you, or at least they stick with me. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars, and I think this is the only book that I gave a 5 out of 5 stars in a long while, so that should say something. The next book I will talk about is Meat Market by Juno Dawson. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars just because I think it was young for me. I think this would be 10 times better for like younger person, like I don't know, somebody 15, 16 years old, maybe 17, but for my 21 years old self, it was a bit too just a tad too childish. But with that said, this still has a very important topic in my opinion. It talks about the fashion industry and the modeling industry and how girls, young girls, are scouted and brought into the modeling world and everything that they go through, eating disorders and sexual abuse and being forced into certain jobs and just hard conditions. And from an outsider's point of view, probably the modeling industry and fashion industry looks amazing, like all rainbows and unicorns, but this I think unveils that and just talks about the not so nice parts of these industries. And I think this is very important for younger girls to read and learn about. I'd say this was an informative read. I mean, I don't know how much in this is true. Obviously, the characters are fictional and everything, but I'm pretty sure that stuff that happens in here happens in real life and probably much worse. Still, good read. The next book I will talk about is Birthday by Meredith Russo. Now, this book was great. I read this in one day and practically 2 sittings. That happens almost never unless the book is like this small. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. This story is about a trans girl and she's raised in this small southern little town and goes through a lot of stuff. Definitely look up some trigger warnings because there are quite a few. And if you know you will be fine reading this, then please, I urge you to give this a read. You will probably not regret this. This was amazing, and the characters, both Morgan and Eric, so adorable. They will be in my hearts forever. Please read this. The next book I will talk about, and before I say the name, I do apologize if I'm not saying this correctly. The book is Kimjung, born 1982, by Cho Namju. Hopefully I said that right. Now, this one I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I read this in one sitting because, as I mentioned before, tiny book. I think this will not be a book that everyone will enjoy just because of the writing style. It's kind of written like report-like. It's a little bit dry, at least it was for me, but I ignored that because, well, first of all, it was short. Also, like, the story is very important. We follow her from since she's a kid till like mid-30s in her married life, and it talks about all the sexist problems that South Korea has and like what women go through and all the gender discrimination and gender paying gap and like what it's like to be a mother, a married mother with kids in Korea, and also a young girl and a teenager and a student in university, and just basically all the stages of life that Kim goes through. I definitely recommend this for people that want to know more about feminism and are just interested in these types of topics, which I certainly am one of those people, and I try to read as much books about feminism and gender discrimination and racism and homophobia and just all those topics that people need to educate themselves more about. So if you're interested in that, please give this a read. It's small, it's short, I don't think you'll regret it. It's good to learn about what feminism is and what sexism is in other countries apart from your own, or at least the big countries like the United Kingdom or America. Give it a try if it's something you're interested in. The next two books I will talk about are two poetry books, and those are The Princess Will Save Herself in this one and The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one, both by Amanda Lovelace. I didn't give a rating for these books because the author talks about her own life and her poems, and it just didn't feel right to rate that, you know? Like, who am I to give somebody's life and somebody's life experiences a rating? So I didn't. It just didn't feel okay to me. These books talk about a lot of sensitive topics, and there's so many trigger warnings that there's an actual list at the beginning of the book. Trigger warning list. There's a lot of things on this list. I don't know if you can see them, then pause the video, feel free to read because there's a lot of them. Basically, these trigger warnings is exactly what most of the poems are about. There's parental abuse, like mother-daughter issues. There's partner abuse. There's eating disorders and a lot of sensitive topics, which are important to read about, but also hard to read about. If you like poetry and if you're okay reading about these things, then I'd say go ahead. They're pretty cool. So the next book I'm gonna talk about is The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. This book I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. This also has a lot of trigger warnings like rape and violence and war. Do look up trigger warnings if you need to. Now, what this book is about, the best way I can describe this is the Iliad, but told from the perspective of the slaves that the Greek took from Troy and cities around, and like what their life was like as a slave in the Greek camps and what they had to go through and their point of view. So that was very refreshing. I really enjoyed this. Also, can we talk about this cover? Just appreciate the cover, the color combination, the art. Yes. Now, the book that I finished most recently is Dracul by Dacre Stoker and J.D. Barker. Now, this book is marketed as a prequel to Dracula, which I guess you could say it is technically a prequel, but I'd also say it's kind of a retelling because you do follow Bram Stoker, the author of Dracula, in this story, but at the same time, the things that he goes through are very similar to the things that the characters go through in Dracula. I personally hated Dracula so much because it is dull, dry, slow, and boring. Very boring. I did not like it one bit. I don't really get why it's such a talked about classic horror. It's not even scary at all, and I'm kind of a scaredy cat. But now this one, I gave 3 out of 5 stars, which is not the best rating, but it's also not the worst. This book gave me everything that Dracula failed to do. There's creepy, eerie atmosphere, there's grave digging, there's gore and blood and fogginess and proper horror vampires. From that aspect, I very much enjoyed this because I was craving this whole essence of vampirism. So this definitely gives you that. But this guy is a chunky boy. He is thick, and because of that, it is slow. Oh my god. If this book was like 200 pages shorter, would have been perfect. But alas, it is not. And it was quite slow in the beginning, but after around page 200 or so, it does pick up. So if you do want to read some good vampire stuff and you don't mind a slow book, then give this baby a try. I think I forgot to talk one book, and that book is The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. I did mention that I was feeling the vampirism, so I read this one as well, and it wasn't bad, you know? I heard some mixed reviews. Some loved it, some said there wasn't enough vampire stuff, which I do agree with. There's not much vampire stuff, but nonetheless, it was still a good read. I did quite enjoy it. I enjoyed the banter, I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the scenery because New Orleans, I love that city. Even though I've never been, everything that I've read or watched that is set there, loved it. This is like the classic tale of human girl falls in love with very bad boy associated with vampires, and it's a forbidden romance type of situation. I am a sucker for that, not gonna lie. I did enjoy this, and I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. Solid 3 stars. I think if you're not expecting too much vampire shenanigans and just go into it for what it is, you might actually quite enjoy this. And that was all the books I read and finished in the month of June and a little bit of July. But before I let you leave, I must say, please go into the description and click that little link that talks about Black Lives Matter and go sign those petitions, donate, educate yourself, inform everyone else around you that is misinformed or not educated enough on the topic. Please click on the link, and with that said, I may bid you goodbye. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time. Bye!